What is a last will and testament, or sometimes what people just call a will? Essentially, a will is a legal document that says who gets what of your stuff after you pass away. So in the will, you might say, hey, I want to leave this to my children, this to my spouse. You can be as specific or as broad. A lot of times people will put, jewelry, home, their house, dollar amounts, all of that. They might want to leave things to charities or religious organizations. But you basically, whatever you have, you're going to put in your will and say who gets what of that stuff. Another couple things that are going to be in there. Most likely, you're going to name who you want to administer your estate after you pass away. So we call that the personal representative or the executor or the administrator. In there, you're probably going to name who that person is. And then you're probably going to name a secondary in the event that that first person maybe passes away, is unable to, or is unwilling to. So you're going to name a secondary person. You might, depending on if you've got minor children, you might put in the will who you want to take care of your minor children. If something were to happen to you and your spouse, or something were to happen to both of the parents, you might put in there, who you want the legal guardian to be. You might put in there, funeral wishes, cremation wishes, what you want to happen after you pass away. So again, sometimes they're as simple as one page, very basic. Sometimes they can be, 20, 30 pages, depending on the complexity of it. But basically a will or last will and testament is going to say who gets what of your stuff and kind of end of life wishes, what you want to happen to you after you pass away. One important thing to know about wills is generally they're not going to avoid probate. So even if you put in your will, I leave my house to this person, I leave my car to this person, I leave $10,000 to this person, probate is still, depending on how those assets are owned, most likely going to be necessary. So there's other ways to avoid probate if that's one of your concerns. Maybe you think about doing a trust, maybe you think about retitling the assets in a different way. But if you're trying to avoid probate, having a will just by itself is probably not the best way. But again, at the end of the day, the will, last will and testament is going to say who gets what of your stuff. Another thing to know, generally wills are not going to be recorded. So there are some online systems where you can pay and record those wills. But most people choose not to do that. Most of the time, wills are going to be drafted by the attorney, or you're going to draft it yourself, or an online service, whatever you're using. You're going to fill it out. It's probably going to be needs to be witnessed depending on the state that you live in. Probably needs to have a couple witnesses, again depending on where you live. And then you're going to keep that document and you're going to put it in a safe. You're going to put it somewhere. Maybe you give copies to somebody. But if there are no copies, if you lose it, if nobody can come across it, if nobody finds it, chances are when you pass away, nobody's going to know that you had the will. So generally what we do for our clients is we'll keep an electronic copy. We give the originals back and we say, hey, make sure somebody knows where you have it. Make sure somebody knows that you have a will. Because again, we might not know when you've passed away, and your family might not know that we were your attorney to come and ask, hey, my dad passed away, do you have a copy of his will? So you want to keep it somewhere safe. I generally don't recommend that you keep them in a safe deposit box at a bank or anything like that, because again, once you pass away, your family members are not going to have access to that safe deposit box. They might not even know that you have a safe deposit box. So if your will is in there, we might not be able to find it. We might not even know, that it was in there. And again, we might go through this entire probate process only to learn, months later that there was a safe deposit box. We finally get access to it, and the will changes everything that we had done because we didn't know that you had a will. So keep it somewhere safe in your house, maybe. If you've got a lockbox or somewhere in your house and you let someone know where it is and then that they can get access to it if necessary. But we generally advise keeping a safe deposit box. You could potentially go ahead and give it to the court to hold. Again, depending on the circumstances, we might not recommend that because chances are when you do your will, you're probably going to make some updates over the years, and that could just create confusion when the time comes to actually go to probate to probate the will. So best case is just keep it somewhere safe. But that's basically what a will is. They can be, again, very simple. They can be complex. For the more complex, we're probably going to talk about doing some other types of documents in what we call estate planning. We're probably going to do a little something different than just having a basic will. But basic wills are great. There's a place and time for them. And so if you're just trying to get something down, say, hey, you know, I just want to leave this stuff to these people, will would probably work great for you. Hey there, thank you guys so much for watching our videos here on YouTube. If you would, make sure to like, leave comments, and most importantly, please, please, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people so that we can share this content and ultimately help more people. So thank you all always for your support. Much appreciated.